Welcome back to the Toybox, where childhood memories meet the legends who made them. Today we're heading into the sewer with one of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle creators. As Mirage Studios' first employee, Steve Lavigne helped launch a worldwide phenomenon by putting ink and letters to the Turtles' adventures and personality. Here's a special sit-down with artist and letterer Steve Lavigne. So, Steve, why don't you tell people, what were you responsible for with TMNT?
Just about everything. Like we all have wore many hats at Mirage. In the early days, the black and white comics, I did the lettering in those, and then as it progressed to the graphic novels, I ended up painting the graphic novels, and then as it became these guys, as I like to call them, the Pizza Eating Cowabunga Turtles. I ended up being the licensing artist for the company, so I did a lot of the packaging, video games and stuff. Me and another gentleman, Ryan Brown, he inked, I penciled and colored just about everything that came out, and I say 70% safely about stuff that came out, licensing-wise, with Turtles on it.
So, I mean, TMNT started with really that kind of gritty storyline and has now transitioned to that Pizza Cowabunga Turtles that you've mentioned. What was that shift like working on that team?
It was a little odd. I look at what people call gritty compared to the comics now. Very, very subtle grittiness, but definitely not these guys. But not overly offensive or nobody with giant gaping holes in their body like a Deadpool comic.
Exactly.
So for us, it was a little odd, to move along. But again, we ran both. The Mirage book always continued down its path, had its story arc running. As this stuff became licensed, then there was a separate entity that was published by Archie, but it was done in-house. So Steve Murphy and Ryan Brown, who I worked, they kind of oversaw the Archie book, even though it was, there was an editor, Archie Victor Gorelick, but basically it was all done in-house and then just shipped to Archie, and that was it. And so it was weird that all of a sudden there was more and more stuff to do. Is basically all of a sudden there was licensing. There's a bot bag. Somebody has to draw the bot bag. I can draw a bot bag. So that was kind of how it went. So it progressed. Like for everybody else, it seemed like minutes. For us, because you're just constantly working on them, it was a 2 to 3 year process, but it seemed like 10. Even though we were just working all the time.
So you've mentioned that the Mirage team for TMNT was a rather small team at the start, but nowadays, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is one of the largest toy lines. How did you on Earth wind up getting this job?
You have a friend that creates them, and that's how you get a job like this. No, yeah. So I've known Kevin since high school, and he created them. But the interesting, like you mentioned, there was only 8 guys in the studio. That was including one guy who was a writer. The rest of us were all kind of artists, writers, whatever. So we would just do anything and everything. Again, I mentioned we weren't really smart. Yes was easy to say. No was very difficult. But we managed to say yes very well. So we would always just say yes to just about anything. And again, I was talking to some young artists here today, and I'm like, we didn't have YouTube. So when somebody said, "Can you do this?" and they'd show you something, you just went, "Yeah," and then you had to figure it out. Like you had to look at the art and figure out how they made that happen. And you had to mess up a couple pieces to finally get to work on the final piece. So it was a very different world, but again, we were young and just smart enough to not know the word no.
So I guess taking that initiative, you were in charge of a couple characters such as Sergeant Bananas. What was the process like for designing Sergeant Bananas?
Well, like all the things, we would go back so Playmates twice a year would come out from California to Western Mass. They'd have a wish list of things to mutate. So, creatures and what they in themes, and you could either kind of match them or you could take it and do whatever you wanted, and then they would in turn work with the team that sculpted all the figures. They'd take our sketches and get it to them, and then in reverse, if they had some characters they were working on and they didn't like what the sketches were coming from their side, they'd ship them to us and we would take them and doctor up. And like in Sergeant Banana's case, there was the Mutanimals were kind of getting popular, and there was a few characters that were kind of forming another entity within the Turtle world called Third World Warriors. And so Sergeant Bananas was supposed to be one of them, and he actually started out as a mandrill. And Steve Murphy kind of created him, and he was Nelson Mandela. And it was an homage to Nelson Mandela, but it was a little aggressive, you know, like we wanted it, you know, and so Playmates liked the idea of a primate, and they had the sculpting company was kind of working on a gorilla, so they asked me to take the two, tame this one down, and punch this guy up, so that became Sergeant Bananas.
In my research, I read that you are kind of referred to as the real-life Michelangelo. What is the validity behind that?
We have the same hairline. That's it. That's the only thing that's. So yeah, again, I've known Kevin since high school, and I'm not that serious of a person. You know, I tend to have a lot of fun. So even in the studio, I was the guy kind of probably easing up him if somebody was a little testy. Probably the guy kind of going really trying to figure everything out, and kind of became Michelangelo's personality. You know, like he became that part of the group, and I guess it came from me. You know, so I don't mind it. I always like Mikey anyway. So
Awesome. And then where can people find you now?
usually wandering around the streets aimlessly looking for things to do. So you can find me on Instagram at Shellback Artworks, Facebook Shellback Artworks. I continue to do turtle stuff all the time. I do a lot of covers now. I do a lot of commissions for people. You know, people want things recreated, or they have an image in their head that they wanted that never happened in the turtle world, and they want me to draw it. So I'll do that for them. You know, so it's nice.
That was Steve Lavigne, a creative force behind Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the stories that sparked our imaginations. If TMNT comics, toys, or cartoons are your jam, drop your favorite turtle memory in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more conversations with the legends who made our childhoods iconic. Until next time, keep the nostalgia alive, and we'll see you back to the toy box.